the Chinese government has already crafted an Orwellian state with the widespread ability to gather private information about its citizens, using a terrifying network of cameras across the country, equipped with facial and voice recognition systems, along with a host of other surveillance tech to find and track Uighurs, Tibetans, and other minorities. In Xinjiang, China is waging an extraordinary crackdown using this high-tech surveillance to impose a digital police state on the region home to 10 million Turkic-speaking Muslims, a minority the government fears could be influenced by extremism.
In recent years, China has accelerated construction of a high-tech surveillance state. As you've heard today, that system has been used to monitor and suppress the freedoms of millions of Chinese citizens, most notably in Xinjiang.
Sheena said those not detained are subject to intrusive surveillance both in and outside China. The beating heart of Xinjiang's surveillance is a system called the Integrated Joint Operations Platform. This platform works like a central nervous system connected to the region's surveillance, amassing tracking data about everyone in the area. In a 2019 annual report, the US Commission on International Religious Freedom said Uyghur Muslims are constantly surveilled, their phones confiscated and scanned, their skin pricked for blood samples to collect their DNA, their children prohibited from attending mosque.
Technology plays a central role in accomplishing this mission. Millions of cameras recognize faces and license plates, while fingerprint scanners, Wi-Fi sniffers, electricity usage monitors installed in homes, and phone apps transmit information on citizen locations, activities, their speech, and more. But beyond data collection, technology provides another capacity that is critical to turning technology into coercive power: the capacity to integrate different sources of information. Surveillance platforms combine incoming data like this, of the type I described, with existing information on citizens, their workplaces, their family members, their educational and employment background, biometric and medical data, their previous access or dependence on welfare benefits, and involvement in petitioning or protesting.
Sheena said while different pieces of the party state have collected such information in the past, China's locally fragmented governance made it hard to amalgamate and use it in a timely fashion. But today, technology platforms can quickly integrate these layers of information.
Authorities then use that integrated information to assess citizens' risk profiles and decide the best approach to prevent them from engaging in unrest or in dissident behavior. Although this system is not as omniscient as is sometimes portrayed, it is a high priority for China's leaders, and continued improvement and advancement of the system is likely.
According to a Human Rights Watch report, this surveillance system's tracking abilities are bolstered by an app used by an army of police and government officials to gather extraordinary information about individuals. As many as 1 million government officials have been sent to the region, with many living among Uyghur Muslim families, to report on any signs of extremist religious behaviour or suspicious acts, such as going through the back door. The Human Rights Watch said, the app provides 3 broad functions. It collects data, reports on suspicious activities or circumstances, and prompts investigative missions. When it finds someone or something the app considers suspicious, the app sends an alert to a nearby government official to find out more. The official is supposed to provide feedback and note whether the person requires further investigation. A Xinjiang Uighur Muslim, called Alim, described the region as having police checkpoints every 200 metres. He told the Human Rights Watch they arbitrarily stop Uyghurs to check their IDs, and when that ID is input in an officer's phone, it tells them the story of their life. The Human Rights Watch said, in some cases, the app prompts officials to conduct a phone search for software, network tools, or content that's problematic. Do they have any suspicious software, such as WhatsApp? Have they visited websites that contain violent audio-visual content? Do they use any VPNs, encrypting data to prevent the authorities from intercepting and blocking it? Officials logged the results of the phone search into the IJOP app. The system also restricts movement depending on the level of threat authorities perceive someone poses. The IJOP is connected to data doors installed at some of the region's ubiquitous checkpoints, which send warnings about problematic individuals. Together, the high-tech surveillance systems form invisible or virtual fences, an innovative system that allows the government to achieve pervasive social control in the region, while allowing mobility to those deemed safe by the authorities. The IJOP treats many lawful activities, like buying a SIM card or growing a beard, as signs of suspicious behavior.
No authoritarian state has leveraged digital technologies more successfully than modern China. For religious groups targeted by the CCP, the result has been as devastating as it is tragic. As with authoritarians elsewhere, the CCP has long been able to repress public forms of religious organizations, religious practices, religious identities, and religious beliefs, especially in urban areas. But private forms of religiosity, including those practiced within one's home, have proven more difficult to monitor and repress. Digital technologies have changed that.
By 2017, moving to curtail expression of cultural, political, and religious diversity, President Xi ordered a quiet campaign of mass detention and forced assimilation in Xinjiang. Large numbers of people across the region began to disappear, and chatter about secretive detention camps swirled.
In part, as a result of the IGOP and related systems, an estimated 10% of China's Uighur Muslims have been interned in the region's detention camps.
Chris said since regulations are often deliberately vague about which religious behaviours and practices qualify as extremist, authorities are able to find data points within information they've collected to justify internment.
Chinese officials have already used these techniques to detain individuals merely for texting verses of the Quran.
Former detainees describe appalling conditions, including extreme overcrowding, sleep and food deprivation, torture, forced labor, and most relevant to today's hearing, forced renunciation of religion, denial of prayer, and other religious services. Survivor and family member accounts conveyed through non-governmental and media organizations indicate that CCP uses discriminatory immigration policies targeting diasporic Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and others back to China for internment. There are also reports that some holders of Kazakhstani citizenship have been detained in Xinjiang while visiting family. The victims of these abuses all have one thing in common. They're members of a Muslim minority that has for centuries peacefully practiced its faith.
The Chinese Communist Party denied the existence of these detention camps until satellite imagery and first-hand evidence mounted in 2018, when it finally acknowledged them, but as vocational training centres, justifying the region's controversial policies as part of the People's War on Terror. It's now clear these indoctrination camps are being used to make minorities loyal to the Chinese Communist Party, often as harsh, preemptive punishment for anyone the party thinks intends to violate the rules.
It is important to understand the CCP's strategic objectives in constructing this system. A key term used by China's leaders when they discuss these topics is fankong, which translates to prevention and control. While Xi's predecessors preferred a doctrine known as stability maintenance, the current leadership has embraced a much more aggressively preventive version of social control, and Xi Jinping has spent much of the last few years overhauling the domestic security apparatus, its organizations, its personnel, its laws, etc., in order to pursue this vision.